Most people believe they'd know if something was wrong with their heart. They imagine a sudden, obvious event, pain that doubles you over, a feeling so unmistakable that you'd immediately call for help. But the truth is far more unsettling than that. The most dangerous thing your heart faces isn't a moment of crisis you can see coming. It's what happens during the hours you're completely unconscious, defenseless, unaware, and the threat almost always begins with something you did right before closing your eyes. I've spent more than 2 decades in cardiology. I've held beating hearts in my hands. I've watched monitors flatline at 4 in the morning on patients who went to bed feeling perfectly fine. And the one thing that haunts me more than anything else in this profession is how predictable it all is. Not because the human body is fragile. It isn't. But because the same mistakes get repeated every single night by millions of people who simply don't know any better. Tonight I'm going to tell you about one habit. One single thing that people do before they sleep that a heart doctor would never, ever do. And once you understand why, you will never look at your evening routine the same way again. Stay with me. This may be the most important thing anyone has ever told you about your heart. Let me start by explaining something most people have never been taught. Your heart doesn't rest when you sleep. That's a myth. Your heart continues to beat, continues to pump, continues to maintain pressure throughout your entire circulatory system. But the way it operates at night is fundamentally different from how it operates during the day. During the day, your body is active. Your muscles are contracting. Your breathing is deeper. Your nervous system is engaged. All of these things actually help your heart do its job. Blood moves efficiently. Pressure stays regulated. Your body is essentially co-piloting with your cardiovascular system every waking moment. But the moment you fall asleep, all of that active support disappears. Your muscles go still. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your nervous system shifts into a completely different mode. And your heart is left to manage everything on its own for the next 7 or 8 hours with almost no assistance from the rest of your body. Now, for a young, healthy cardiovascular system, that's perfectly fine. The heart is built for this. But after the age of 50, and especially after 60, the margin for error shrinks dramatically. Arteries that were once soft and flexible have become stiffer. Plaque that has been quietly building for decades narrows the passageways your blood depends on. Hormonal signals that once kept everything balanced during sleep begin to fade. And suddenly, the nighttime hours, those quiet, peaceful, seemingly harmless hours, become the single most dangerous window for your heart. This is not speculation. The data is overwhelming. The majority of fatal heart attacks in older adults occur between midnight and 6 in the morning. Not during exercise. Not during arguments, not during stressful workdays, during sleep, during silence, during the hours when no one is watching. And the reason that should concern you deeply is this. What happens to your heart during those hours is not random. It is directly shaped by the choices you make in the 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. What you eat, what you drink, what you take or don't take. And most critically, one particular habit that the vast majority of people over 50 engage in without the slightest idea that it is quietly loading the gun. Let me tell you what that habit is. Eating a large meal late at night. I know. It sounds ordinary. It sounds harmless. It sounds like something billions of people do every single day without any consequence. And that is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Not because a single late dinner will give you a heart attack, but because this habit, repeated night after night over months and years, creates a cascade of internal events that your heart was never designed to handle during sleep. Let me walk you through exactly what happens inside your body when you eat a heavy meal within 2 to 3 hours of going to bed. When you consume a large dinner, especially one rich in fats, refined carbohydrates, or heavy proteins, your body immediately redirects a massive amount of blood flow toward your digestive organs. Your stomach, your intestines, your liver, they all demand increased circulation to break down and process what you just ate. This is a significant cardiovascular event. Your heart rate increases. Your blood pressure rises. Your cardiac output, the total volume of blood your heart pumps per minute, goes up substantially. During the day, this is manageable. Your body is upright. Your muscles are engaged. Your nervous system is alert and capable of compensating for the increased demand. But when this happens at night, when your body is horizontal, when your muscles are inactive, when your nervous system is trying to shift into recovery mode, you create a direct conflict inside your own cardiovascular system. On one hand, your heart is trying to slow down. It's trying to enter its nighttime recovery phase. Blood pressure is supposed to drop. Heart rate is supposed to fall. Your arteries are supposed to relax. On the other hand, your digestive system is screaming for more blood, more pressure, more output. It needs energy. It needs circulation. And it needs it now. Your heart is caught between 2 competing demands that cannot both be satisfied at the same time. And for someone over 50 or 60 whose arteries are already compromised, whose blood pressure regulation is already imprecise, whose cardiac reserve is already diminished, that conflict is not a minor inconvenience. It is a genuine medical risk. But the damage doesn't stop there. Within 2 to 4 hours after a heavy meal, triglyceride levels in your blood rise sharply. Triglycerides are the fat circulating in your bloodstream, and when they spike, your blood becomes thicker, stickier, and significantly more prone to clotting. Now think about when that spike is peaking. If you ate dinner at 9 at night and went to bed at 10 or 11, that triglyceride surge is happening right in the middle of the most vulnerable window of the night, between midnight and 4 in the morning, exactly when your heart rate is at its slowest, exactly when your blood flow is at its most sluggish, exactly when a clot forming inside a partially blocked artery is most likely to cause a catastrophic event. This is not a theoretical risk. This is a well-documented physiological sequence that cardiologists see play out in emergency rooms every single week. And there's another layer to this that most people never consider. A heavy meal before bed dramatically increases the likelihood of acid reflux, a condition where stomach acid rises into the esophagus while you're lying flat. For many people, particularly those over 60, the symptoms of acid reflux can closely mimic the symptoms of a heart attack. Chest pressure, tightness, discomfort that radiates into the throat or jaw. This creates a dangerous ambiguity. People who are actually experiencing early cardiac symptoms dismiss them as indigestion. They roll over. They try to fall back asleep. They lose precious minutes, sometimes hours, that could have been spent getting emergency treatment. I have personally treated patients who delayed calling for help because they convinced themselves it was just something they ate. By the time they arrived at the hospital, the damage to their heart muscle was irreversible. That is not an exaggeration. That is a clinical reality I have witnessed more times than I care to count. Now let me be completely clear. I'm not telling you to skip dinner. I'm not telling you to starve yourself in the evenings. That would create an entirely different set of problems. What I am telling you is this. The timing and the composition of your evening meal has a direct, measurable, and potentially life-altering impact on what happens inside your chest while you sleep. And the adjustment is not complicated. Finish your main meal by 6 or 7 in the evening whenever possible. Give your body a minimum of 3 hours between your last significant meal and the time you actually lie down asleep. 3 hours. That's all it takes for your digestive system to do the heavy lifting while you're still upright, still active, still able to support the process. If your schedule makes an early dinner impossible, then adjust what you eat, not just when. A late meal doesn't have to be a dangerous meal. Choose lean protein. Choose vegetables. Choose something your body can process without mobilizing your entire cardiovascular system. Grilled fish with steamed vegetables at 8:30 is a completely different cardiovascular event than a plate of heavy pasta with cream sauce and bread at 8:30. The clock may read the same time, but the burden on your heart is dramatically different. And if you absolutely must eat something close to bedtime, keep it genuinely light. A small portion of yogurt, a handful of nuts, something that asks very little of your heart while you sleep. Now I want to tell you something that goes beyond just the meal itself, because what I've seen in my years of practice is that late-night eating rarely exists in isolation. It is almost always part of a larger pattern. People who eat late tend to go to bed later. People who go to bed later tend to sleep fewer hours. People who sleep fewer hours have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, circulating in their blood the following day. Higher cortisol leads to higher blood pressure, increased inflammation, and accelerated arterial damage. And then the next evening, because they're tired and stressed, they eat late again. And the cycle repeats. This is not a single bad habit. It is a cascade, one domino knocking over the next, night after night, silently compounding damage that won't announce itself until it's too late. Breaking the cycle starts with dinner. It starts with a time on the clock when you pick up your fork. It starts tonight. But I want to take this further, because if you've stayed with me this long, you deserve to walk away with something genuinely useful. Beyond the timing of your meal, there are several other things that happen in the hours before sleep that directly influence how safe your heart is during the night. And once you understand them, you can build a simple, practical evening routine that gives your heart the best possible conditions for surviving those dangerous nighttime hours. The first is hydration. Many people, especially those over 60, deliberately stop drinking water in the evening because they don't want to wake up to use the bathroom at 2 in the morning. I understand the logic, but the consequence of going to bed dehydrated is that your blood thickens overnight. Thicker blood flows more slowly through arteries that may already be narrowed by plaque. It clots more easily. And during the hours when your heart rate is at its lowest and your circulation is at its weakest, thick blood inside compromised arteries is a recipe for exactly the kind of event no one wants to experience. 1 glass of water before bed. That's all. About 8 ounces. Enough to keep your blood flowing properly through the night without turning your bladder into an alarm clock. The second is your bedroom temperature. This sounds almost absurdly simple, but your cardiovascular system has a very specific relationship with ambient temperature during sleep. If your bedroom is too warm, above roughly 22 degrees Celsius or 72 Fahrenheit, your body spends the entire night trying to cool itself down. Blood vessels dilate. Heart rate stays elevated. You sweat, which increases fluid loss and compounds the dehydration problem. Your sleep quality deteriorates, and you spend less time in the deep restorative stages where your heart does its most important overnight repair work. If your bedroom is too cold, below about 16 or 17 degrees Celsius, the opposite happens. Your blood vessels constrict to preserve core body temperature. Blood pressure rises. Your heart has to pump against significantly greater resistance. For someone with existing coronary artery disease or hypertension, that is a genuinely dangerous increase in nighttime cardiac workload. The sweet spot is between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius, or 65 to 72 Fahrenheit. Within that range, your blood vessels stay relaxed, your heart rate stays low and steady, and your body remains in what's called a thermoneutral state, the optimal condition for cardiovascular recovery during sleep. One thermostat adjustment. That's it. No cost. No medication. No dramatic lifestyle change. The third thing I want you to consider is something most people dismiss entirely. Snoring. If you snore, or if someone has ever told you that you seem to stop breathing during sleep, I need you to take that seriously. Not as an annoyance. Not as a joke. As a potential indicator of obstructive sleep apnea, a condition that affects more than 30% of adults over 60, and that the vast majority of them have never been diagnosed with. During an episode of sleep apnea, your airway collapses. You stop breathing, sometimes for 10 seconds, sometimes for 40 seconds or more. Your blood oxygen level plummets. Your brain detects a crisis and floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate surges. Your blood pressure spikes. Your heart is violently jolted into emergency mode while the rest of your body remains asleep. And this can happen 30, 40, even 50 times in a single night. Night after night, year after year. The cardiovascular consequences are severe. Sleep apnea is directly associated with a threefold increase in the risk of heart attack. It is strongly linked to atrial fibrillation, a dangerous irregular heart rhythm that dramatically increases stroke risk. It accelerates arterial stiffening and plaque buildup. And because it happens while you're unconscious, most people have no idea anything is wrong until a major cardiac event forces the diagnosis. If you snore heavily, if you wake up with morning headaches, if you feel exhausted despite a full night's sleep, if you wake up frequently to urinate, if you ever wake up gasping or choking, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. After the age of 60, being evaluated for sleep apnea is not a suggestion. It is an essential part of cardiac care. The fourth thing, and this applies specifically to people who take blood pressure medication, is the timing of that medication. Most people take their blood pressure pills in the morning because that's what they were told to do years ago, or because that's simply when they remember to take them. But there is strong scientific evidence, including findings from major chronotherapy trials, showing that taking blood pressure medication in the evening rather than the morning may provide significantly greater cardiovascular protection during the vulnerable overnight hours. The reason is straightforward. If you take your medication at 7 in the morning, its peak effectiveness occurs during the day when your blood pressure is already being managed by your body's natural daytime mechanisms. By 2 or 3 in the morning, when your risk is highest, that medication may have largely worn off. You're essentially unprotected during the exact hours when protection matters most. I am not telling you to change your medication schedule on your own. I am telling you to have a specific, direct conversation with your doctor about whether evening dosing would be more appropriate for you. That conversation takes 2 minutes. It could be the most important medical discussion you have this year. So let me put all of this together for you. A simple evening routine. Not complicated. Not expensive. Not time-consuming. Just a practical sequence of decisions that gives your heart the best possible chance of making it safely through the night. Finish your main meal by 6 or 7 in the evening. Keep it balanced. Lean protein. Vegetables. Nothing heavy. Nothing enormous. Around 7, take your medications if your doctor has advised evening dosing, and drink a glass of water. Between 8 and 9, wind down. Step away from bright screens. Take a gentle walk. Read. Have a quiet conversation. Let your nervous system transition towards sleep. By 9, prepare your bedroom. Set the thermostat between 18 and 22 degrees. Place a glass of water on your bedside table. By 10, be in bed. If you snore, sleep on your side rather than your back. This single positional change can significantly reduce airway obstruction while you pursue a formal evaluation for sleep apnea. That's it. Dinner by 7. Water and medications by 7. A calm evening until 9. Bedroom prepared by 9. Asleep by 10. Side sleeping if you snore. No expensive supplements. No radical dietary overhaul. No equipment you need to buy. Just a series of small, informed decisions that address the exact physiological vulnerabilities your heart faces every single night. Now I want to speak to you not as someone making a video, but as a physician who has been inside too many operating rooms at hours when the rest of the world was sleeping. I have watched families receive news that no family should ever have to hear. I have stood across from spouses who said the exact same thing almost every single time. but everything seemed fine when we went to bed. And in almost every one of those cases, when I reviewed the patient's history, when I pieced together the evening that led to that 3 a.m. emergency, the contributing factors were not mysterious. They were not genetic anomalies or freak medical events. They were a late dinner, a missed medication, a warm bedroom, a body that was dehydrated, an airway that had been collapsing silently for years while everyone assumed the snoring was just a harmless nuisance. These are not rare conditions. They are not exotic diagnoses. They are the ordinary background of millions of ordinary evenings. But that background, repeated over thousands of nights, is what eventually becomes the heart attack that no one saw coming. Not because it was unpredictable, but because no one ever told them where to look. The greatest lesson 2 decades of cardiology has taught me is this. Most of the hearts I've had to repair did not fail because of bad luck. They failed because of missing information. Information that was available. Information that was simple. Information that the patient just never received. Now you have it. The question is what you will do with it. Not next week. Not after your next appointment. Tonight. When you sit down to eat. When you reach for your medication. When you set the thermostat. When you pour that glass of water. When you lie down and choose which side to sleep on. Every one of those moments is a decision. And every one of those decisions is either protecting your heart or quietly working against it. Which of these habits did you recognize in yourself? I suspect at least 2 or 3 of them sounded familiar. If they did, you are not alone. The vast majority of my patients recognize themselves somewhere in what I've just described. The only difference now is that you know what to do about it. If someone you care about is over the age of 50, if they eat dinner late, if they snore, if they take blood pressure medication in the morning without ever questioning the timing, share this with them. You may be giving them information that changes the course of their health in ways neither of you can predict yet. Take care of your heart. It has been beating for you faithfully every second of every day and every night of your entire life without ever asking for anything in return. Tonight, give it something back. Give it the conditions it needs to keep beating for many more years to come. One final thought. Everything I've shared today is general medical information based on current cardiovascular research and clinical experience. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice. Before making any changes to your medications, especially the timing of blood pressure medication, please consult your own physician. That is not a legal formality. That is sincere guidance from someone who genuinely hopes you'll still be here, healthy and well, for a very long time. Good night, sleep well, and sleep safely.